Hi, Jonathan. Welcome to Portal Talks, day 2. You're going to talk about AppSec and internal developer portals, and the stage is yours.
Cool. Amazing. Let me share my screen. So today we'll talk about application security and IDP. Basically, in application security comes, it's usually what the word security is the word that many developers fear. And there is in the industry what we call the alert fatigue. So basically too many alerts that we start ignoring them until someone, punches you and starting to sting you. So we talked today about how an IDP can help reduce the noise, reduce the alert fatigue, and especially the focus of today's session is to talk about ownership. How can I show you, Ronnie, exactly the vulnerabilities that you need to fix and not just 1,000 of vulnerabilities, which is a challenge in the industry. So let's go and let's start and let's make it interactive. Feel free to also send questions in the Q&A. I'll try to address them in the end or offline. So thanks all of you for joining today. My name is Jonathan Gruber. I'm in charge of the SE team at Port. I coming from a application security background from Snyk, Imperva. So I really dove into this a lot. Talking about diving, I love diving as well, like being underwater more than over water. I would call myself a light board game geek. And the last informal role that I have, many people call me the Chief Simplicity Officer, which is a title I love. I have an obsession for trying to keep things simple, and it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to keep things simple. So that's about me, and yeah, let's talk about security now. In application security, we talked a lot about shifting left, not only in security, but that's so we'll talk about this, which is shifting left has been an essential transformation in AppSec in the last few years, but it's also hard, and we'll talk about why. And how an IDP can help building an AppSec program and solve some of the challenges. And last, there's not a good session without seeing it live. So we'll build it and we'll play with the system today and with some live demo. So shifting left have been, buzzword has been every AppSec vendor is talking about shifting left, and it's been super important. Why is it so important? Because 5-10 years ago, a developer was writing a code, pushing it, testing it, then moving into a long CI, and at the end of the development process, and then eventually weeks later going to QA, being tested, and then security teams after QA were testing it and saying, finding some vulnerabilities. In the best case, before going into production, and coming back to the devs and saying, we found this amount of vulnerabilities, you need to fix it. Right? So basically, now the developer needs to reopen the code that they wrapped up a few weeks before and address 20, 30 vulnerabilities, slows down, and there's a huge pressure of releasing the product, so slows down the whole process. The later you fix them, the more expensive it is in terms of risk, in terms of time to market. So the idea has been to bring this much, much earlier. And with this came tools such as Snyk, Dependabot, Checkmarks, and others that have been basically giving IDE plugins and CLI scans and PR checks features that help you scan much, much early in the process. All right, so really amazing and more embedded into the dev process. So a lot of benefits. Yet with that remain, what about the existing vulnerabilities? What about the ones that are discovered later and that are currently in production and comes a lot of challenges? The other challenge is that, security has not been the only domain of thinking that shifting left is a great idea. Basically, everything has shifted left. On call, like developers, are now in charge of what they run. You build it, you run, you run it. So you need to be in charge. You need to look at it in PagerDuty. You need to look in Grafana, Datadog, and other observability tools. You need to have some Kubernetes awareness. You need to look at your logs. You need also to be in charge of, sometimes the cloud resources that you need, or permissions, temporary permissions to review what you have. So security is not the only thing apart from coding that developers need to care about. And it is just, so we need to make sure that we the developers will care of it only if we make it super, super easy. And the questions that the developer will ask themselves, himself or herself, in terms of security will be like, first of all, the shock of, there's so many vulnerabilities, but which ones are mine? Yeah, which are my vulnerabilities? And add me some context. Which ones, out of the ones that are mine, is it really critical, or is it just an internal service? Is it a service that is exposed on the internet, or something that is just internal and hidden behind like a ton of VPCs and firewalls, and basically I can reduce and continue, and first of all, release this important feature that I'm on. So a lot of questions, and I've been endless times with customers at my time with in previous companies where we scan great, the accuracy is fantastic, but it's really hard to find who is actually owning the vulnerabilities that we found in production. So there's no developer. I think that's something we discussed, Rodney, as well. 0% of developer, don't want to not fix their vulnerabilities. Just tell them, we just need to be good at telling them what they should fix exactly. Yeah, those are the vulnerabilities that you need to fix, and that's it. Yeah, so just reduce the noise to the minimum. So what we need to bring to the AppSec tool and enhance to the AppSec tool, it's not the AppSec tool's fault. Yeah, it's just they lack the context of everything around, of the business you need, the product, the what's running, Kubernetes, and so on, and of course ownership. And this is where really an IDP can help. If I look at the security tool, a security tool will tell us how many vulnerabilities are in total. And most security tools are very good also at giving some level of prioritization, yes, severity and risk score, but also some of them even reachability in some way, which also has been a challenge. But that's not enough. That's still a lot of vulnerabilities for me to do something about it. To do something about it, what I need to know as well is, is it in production? Is it is it something that is running right now? I would know it from Kubernetes, from AWS, from Azure, from the environment. The other question that I need to ask myself is, I would like to understand, is the business context. Is it an internal service? Is it an external service? Is it a new app that we're working on that is not yet released? Is it something that is customer facing? It is business mission critical? I would know it from ServiceNow, from other database, sometimes from an Excel or from tribal knowledge. And then last, I would just tell me which is mine. Yeah, I would know this maybe from an SSO tool, from Azure AD, from Sentry, from GitHub Teams, and others. And this, basically, you can see that I need to correlate already data from at least 4 or 5 sources of data to really get to tell you those are the vulnerabilities that you need to fix. I mean, those are just the few ones, the 2 critical that you need to care of, and you can continue to. So let's try. Let's see how we can get to this point. And the last 3 will really be where an IDP can work together hand in hand with an AppSec tool and enrich all this data with vulnerabilities, with context.
Can I ask you to explain why the IDP enriches the top 3 levels of the funnel? So where the context is there, and why doesn't it exist in ordinary AppSec tools?
The bottom one, right?
Yeah.
Because it's simply they simply don't have access to that. Yeah, an AppSec tool does not have access to Kubernetes, to AWS. It does not have access to the business context, such as ServiceNow and ownership. It does not read data from typically from GitHub Teams, or it does it with a lot of scripting and homemade tools. And I've seen this a lot. We try to help them tagging but it's painful. So we need to connect the dots in a much better manner. Cool. So let's look at it. Let's look at just some services that we scan. We find some vulnerabilities. What we're going to do now is the following. We're going to ingest vulnerabilities. I have my integrated with GitHub, got my pull request. This is just a 2-minute onboarding import. Integrating just for the sake of diversity with the tools that we find online, Dependabot from GitHub, Sneak, but it can be Checkmark, SonarQube, and any other tool, nothing specific here. The next thing that we're going to do, that will be the hands-on part, will be the ownership. How do we define the ownership logic? How do I add to the vulnerability? And that will be really the first challenge is, I know that it is mine, or it is yours, or it is my team's. The third thing is aspect, we're going to create my personal dashboards. I don't really want to go and start digging. I want just you to show me exactly what the ones that I need to know about. But I would say it's not even enough. It would be a little bit arrogant to think that developers will just log into port and say every morning and say, let me check what vulnerabilities I have today. We need to push this information to them. So to get it to the next level, at the very end, we're going to demo automation and creating some automated workflows so that we bring this information directly into the developer's hands, whether it's a ticket, whether it's an alert, whether it's an incident or whatever is needed, to be very close to the workflow and even get this information to them in real time. Cool. I will talk about a new feature for people here who are familiar with Port. We'll talk also, it's a good opportunity to talk about a very new feature that just came in and will serve us very, very well, which is user and teams as blueprint, right? So user and teams management were like quite central, like any other tool, common SaaS tools. And because it is so important into the data model, into building an IDP, we make them blueprints. It means that we can connect them into the rest of the model. I can connect a team into a scanner, a service, a Kubernetes. So we'll see and we'll play with it. So I just wanted to get this opportunity to talk about, to remind about, to talk about user and teams and how it serves us perfectly here. Cool. So let me share with you my data model, starting with a very, very simple model. I just came into Port, logged in. When you create your account, you just you offer to ingest your services and pull requests. We don't have much ownership knowledge just yet. We just have a service and pull request. Okay, easy. So I see my services. I can see my pull requests. Let's see them there. Those are services. Those are pull requests here. Nice. Perfect. The next thing I want to do now, we're already thinking about ownership, right? And I will talk about vulnerabilities last. So the first source of truth that I will have could be GitHub Teams. And the beauty here is that it really changes from a company to another. It could be another way, but here, let's say GitHub Teams. This is an integration that comes out of the box in Port. So I'm able to enrich my services to knowing like what GitHub Teams they belong to, one or many. Great. Now, with the new feature that I discussed, Port ingested a user and teams as blueprints. Okay, so basically all the users that I get from my SSO, from Okta, from Azure AD, from a Google Workspace will basically be ingested automatically in a blueprint. And I will get from there the Google Teams, the Okta Teams, and so on. Nice. And what I did just before the meeting, I connected the GitHub Teams so that basically the GitHub Teams would know their equivalent into the SSO Teams. Okay, great. So basically, if I chain it, I'm able to know from a service what GitHub team it belongs to, and I know what a Port team or Google team or Okta team it belongs to, right? Great. So now I ingested, integrated with Snyk, integrated with the Dependabot, and I know for a service, this is also out of the box, what vulnerabilities belong to what service. Okay, so let's have a look at it. I can see my vulnerabilities. I can see that there's a lot of vulnerabilities in my services, but I have some of them that are critical, but I don't have any ownership. So out of those, I can find them by service and I can find them by all kind of things. But for me, Jonathan, I'm not able to know like what are the ones that I should really care of. And again, there's a structure and organization, but it requires me some search. Similarly, for Dependabot, I find vulnerabilities that are done. There are some that are really scary, some critical ones that's nice or not. But how do I know which ones are the ones that I should fix? Cool. So what I will do, I will use a fantastic feature from Port that is called team inheritance. So I know that the service belongs to a team, and I know that the team belongs to an Okta team, for example. So I will say as a chain of events, I'm able to deduce what is the father or the grandfather of a Snyk vulnerability. So I will use a feature called team inheritance. Yeah, and I would say you get the team, the ownership from the Git team. So whatever team is owning your grandfather, this is the team in Snyk, and we'll do the same with the Dependa bot, right? And we can do the same with the pull request as well, which I did just before to save time. And if I look at my data model now, you can see that my vulnerabilities are now ingesting the owning teams, right? I'm able to know that maybe if I'm grouping into teams, those are the vulnerabilities that I can see by team. And if I belong to a certain team, I will be able to see a certain vulnerabilities. I will be able to even maybe filter based on the severity and find them based on critical, for example. So I have, this team has 10 critical vulnerabilities, this team has 3, and so on. Similarly, my dependabot model now got ownership, and I'm able to know what are the vulnerabilities, what are the teams owning what vulnerabilities, and I can see like the amount of critical and high and so on. I can create 2 levels of grouping, maybe just for the sake of it, we'll do it in a different view. I will be able to see a sub grouping with by teams, the number of critical vulnerabilities. Talking about ownership, I am Jonathan. I belong to a specific team. So I would be interested in, let's look at myself. I am Jonathan, and I belong to team 4. So I don't really care of seeing others. So what I would like to know is just show me the ones that are just mine. Yeah, that's mine is enough. So Port has a feature called a dynamic filter based on my Port team. So basically, it's going to say, I'm going to show you. Let's just to clean it up. We're going to do, it knows that Jonathan belongs to team 4. Jonathan, so as a logged in, so it's going to show me only the ones that are team 4. Let's just show maybe the vulnerabilities one. So this is how I do it, but just to clean it up and to put exactly what I need to know in Port, now let's make it a dashboard. So I will create a few widgets here just for the fun. We're going to create a first table that will be, for example, my so dependabot, my dependabot issues. Okay, there will be some alert icon. We're going to take them from dependabot. Yeah, and I will just ingest them. So what I will want to know though, I will just, for a second, I'm just going to copy the filter. I will say, yeah, I would like to know only the issues that are mine. So I would just copy paste a filter saying, take from the property team that we now ingested, just take my, so get the user team, meaning me, Jonathan, who logged in, just filter based on my issues. And this will give me a nice table showing my vulnerabilities, my dependabot issues. And now I don't have that many, and maybe I would just filter them based on the high and critical. I don't care of the rest at the moment. Don't tell my boss. Great. Another view that I would like you to create is maybe a pie chart, and I want to see my maybe my vulnerabilities in total, my Snyk vulnerabilities by severity. Yeah, vulnerabilities by some. So there, by severity, we'll do it by, so those will be vulnerabilities. And similarly, I would just take filter, and same filter since I'm using the same, and I will break down by severity. Yeah, and we will see it in the nice way. Yeah, great. Cool. One last view. Snyk and dependabot and sending me PRs. So let's maybe see what tasks to even make it easier for me. My security PRs. I would like to see from GitHub, and I would like you to tell me exactly what are the ones that I need to do per request. So basically here, I will use a different filter. I will use, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's the one that I want to know. Yeah, so I will filter, I will create my vulnerabilities for my team's PRs to review. We'll drag it to make it nice, to create a nice view. And I only want the ones that are security related. So I will filter and we say that in the title, it contains, let's say in this example, sneak. Yeah, let's save. And I would like them to be maybe filters as well by, yeah, and that basically I will see that I have 11 vulnerabilities by sneak, and I can even filter maybe based on the target. So I can group that maybe by the target, by the service, and save. And now I can see that, okay, I have 4 that I need to merge. And this is give me like a security tasks, basically from the partner board, from sneak, and just exactly what to fix. Nice. So I'll show one last thing today. So basically this is how in just a few minutes I can create a personal dashboard. Jonathan logs in, Emily logs in. Each of us will see a personal dashboard with our vulnerabilities, that the ones our PRs security related, and basically reduce the noise significantly. In the opening though, if you remember, I mentioned that I can't count on the developers to log in and into port every morning. So let's make it even easier. Let's go to the next level. So let's use a very new feature called automation. What I'm going to do here is saying, if there is a new critical vulnerability that comes into production, open a new incident or create a new Jira ticket and send a Slack message, for example. Okay, whatever workflow I want. So this feature does, if there is a change in the catalog that can be security or non-security related, do something. Okay, it can be a TTL, it can be a new entity, and in this case, we'll detect a new vulnerabilities. Cool. So what I did, I will just show you the demo quickly. What we did here, if I'm looking at my vulnerabilities, there's a new button called workflow, and I have a workflow that we created that says, I just kept it simple. If there's a new entity created, it is a sneak vulnerability, and it is high, then run this workflow that is going to create an incident in PagerDuty, for example. Maybe for critical, it would be more right. Maybe we can add also other contexts, such as, so let's do it. I will create, so what I will do, I will go into a repository, and I will change live the, we're just going to go into the package.json, and we'll make our package a little bit more vulnerable. We look into Express, which is a nice dirty repository. And I know that 3.5 has more vulnerabilities. We'll just check that Sneak is rescanning. If everything goes fine, it should be rescanning it. If not, we retest it. We'll just retest it, not just to push it, but normally it happens almost in real time. And then once done, if everything went right, we're going to trigger on your workflow automatically. Yeah, all good. Great. So if everything was fine, now, I got a new vulnerability into production. Sneak, with thanks to GitHub Webhook, is rescanning it, finding a new vulnerability. Paul detects a change in Sneak, pulls it, refreshes the catalog. So we should be seeing a new vulnerability in the catalog, and a new vulnerability in the catalog, and then triggers a workflow. And if everything got fine, I should be seeing, you see, there's a new workflow being triggered. And this workflow should be creating me a new incident, a message in Slack, a new incident. I can even open the incident in PagerDuty, and seeing my new incident in PagerDuty. Yeah, it can be from anything to anything. So I just showed it as an example. To wrap up today's call, I just wanted to think of the next steps. So we talked about ownership, we talked about automation. We can take the context to the next level by adding to the context of a service. What is it running into production? What domains does it belong? Is it system critical? What's the owning team? And create all kind of enhancements into this level. So show me the vulnerabilities by criteria, show me the number of vulnerabilities belonging to the mobile app, and so on and so on. Cool. So thank you very much for joining today's session.
If anyone has any questions, do put them in the chat. If not, we'll wait for another minute or two. If not, you can write. Jonathan, how can you be connected? Jonathan at Getport.io. Do you have your email on the screen?
Jonathan at Getport.io, or even easier, you can join our community Slack from our website and just You can find me there. Just tag me, or you can write in general and tag me, and I'll be happy to answer.
Ask any question you like. We'll also send you the recording of this session. Thank you, Jonathan.
Cool. Amazing.